Hey, this is Tony Boss Bolin coming to you from the Lincoln Addict Podcast.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, hitting you with another episode 31 of Lincoln Addict Podcast. If you're new to the channel, or the show rather, please consider subscribing. It's free. When you follow or subscribe, depending on how you're listening, you'll be notified through an in-app notification when we post new content. So I'm getting in the rhythm of, the goal really is to do 2 a month, bi-weekly, and this one is coming kind of on the heels of the last episode 30 with Larry Bloom, and I've got the other one, the next episode already in the can, so to speak, so that will be coming in 2 weeks, so more to come on that. But again, please subscribe, and don't forget to check us out on YouTube, where I post a lot of content. I'm going to continue ramping up there as well, covering a lot of things and details about these cars that I love, of course, talking about. So check us out there. On this episode, we've got a jam-packed agenda, which I want to talk about in a minute. I want to thank a couple of our sponsors. So shout out to Devious Customs. Many of you are kind of new to Lincolns, or maybe you're looking at purchasing one. I've had a few people say, hey, I love the show. Eventually, I want to get one of these cars. DeviousCustoms.com, arguably one of the go-to spots on the internet for parts for these cars in terms of kind of modding, resto modding, even some things for purists that may tickle their fancy, so to speak, meaning that if you've got some window switches that are maybe a little ragged and they can't be rebuilt, Jeff and team have produced a lot of different parts that will make it easy to either restore or resto mod your 60s Lincoln Continental. It's not just air suspension stuff that he sells. He's got different things for dashes, speaker setups, door panels, you name it. He's really kind of getting into all aspects of the 60s Lincoln. So DeviousCustoms.com. He is also on Facebook and Instagram. He also had an Amazon show for a short period, so you can check out those episodes if you have access to Amazon Prime. I want to also thank Colorado Custom Wheels. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the company Colorado Custom, and if you go to coloradocustom.com, you can go to their Lincoln wheels, which is going to be under their premium section on their website, and they call them the Lincoln replica wheels, the perfect complement for your Lincoln. Basically, they make the wheels that look or replicate the original Lincoln hubcaps. There's a couple of different styles, believe it or not, on the center caps, and they're pretty awesome. If you want a little bit more information on how to install the center caps, I've done a video on our YouTube channel, Lincoln Addict. You can check it out, but coloradocustom.com. Steel Rubber, we've had them on in the past, and I always talk about the best in the business, STEELE rubber.com. Hit these guys up. They have solutions for everything, including these 60s Lincolns, and if you go back and listen to that episode, you'll learn that they make the best products in the industry as it relates to weather stripping. And if you're looking to either resto mod your car or restore it back to original, the weather stripping is a key component that's going to help keep the moisture out, but it's also going to help keep the ride quiet. So steelrubber.com. And last, Griot's Garage. We had Nick on to talk a lot about why Griot's Garage products are superior to the competition. And don't just take my word for it. Check out that episode with Nick. You can also, of course, at your local spot, more than likely pick up Griot's or hit up griotsgarage.com. They also have videos on their YouTube channel. I'm naive when it comes to this stuff. I've been around cars, custom cars, 25 plus years, but I suck at detailing, so I often watch their videos to kind of learn different techniques. I want to make sure I'm not damaging the paint on my Lincolns. griotsgarage.com for more. Okay, so this episode, basically, David Escalante is someone I met a couple years back. I think this September is going to be 3 years ago that I met him, give or take, 2 or 3 years. But David Escalante joins us from Suicide Kings. They are a California-based club, 1961 through 1969 Lincoln Continental club to be specific. I'll let him tell his story and kind of explain the ins and outs of their club. They've got a couple of different chapters. These guys are kind of all over. So, David, thanks so much for joining us. Now, David also patches in via various phone calls different enthusiasts from the Lincoln Continental community, which I think you guys will definitely appreciate. It's a jam-packed episode, and the cool thing is it's different people from different organizations, different clubs, things like that. So it's pretty cool, and I got to thank David for taking the time to sit down with us, but also for bringing on some kind of friends and kinfolk, if you will, to talk Lincolns a little bit. Each of them are Lincoln owners, hardcore enthusiasts, and people that are kind of ingrained in the Lincoln community. I'll, of course, next cover the normal Lincoln updates that I like to cover on these episodes. If you've been listening since the beginning, thank you. You're accustomed to kind of hearing these, and I can't thank you guys enough for the support. This episode overview is brought to you by Devious Customs. Again, DeviousCustoms.com. When you go there, you'll be able to go right to the Lincoln section, and through there, you'll see all of the different products that Jeff and team sell. It's kits and parts, shop Lincolns, and you'll see everything there. I also did a tour of the facility. So again, that is on my YouTube channel, Lincoln Addict. Look up Lincoln Addict Devious Customs Tour. I tell you what, one of the things that blew my mind was the billet switch panels for the window switches. This is something that are often nasty and made out of pot metal on these Lincolns. You can't always re-chrome them. So for Jeff and team to make a product like that, it really makes sense. You got to hit up the website if you want to find more information. All right, the previous episode recap. I have to thank Larry Highbloom for coming on. He got me kick-started in, getting these episodes out. I know many of you are like, hey, when's the new episode coming? Whether you're listening on an iPhone or Android device, on YouTube or Podbean, or however you're consuming this podcast, I'll say it. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Thank you so much. I want to grow this channel, and by you listening and streaming and watching the videos all the way through and whatnot, it definitely helps us out. Now, Larry, he came on, if you haven't listened to episode 30, and he talked a lot about his love for Lincolns, this amazing car that he owned going on, I think it was 34 years, and he recently had an opportunity to sell the car. I will give an update on that just in a little bit, but I got to thank Larry again. He did a write-up for me on the LCOC of Philadelphia region newsletter. So if you want to go to lcoc.org, you can go out to the Philadelphia region and you can look at those newsletters and you'll see the write-up in there. That was a cool thing that he did, and it just so happened that a couple of months or several weeks had went by, and Larry had kind of given me the intel that his car was going to be coming up for sale. Now, I don't think that we really shared this on the last episode, but basically he had worked, it took about 5 months, and I don't think that's typical, but he was very adamant on what he wanted through Bring a Trailer in terms of the look and feel of all of the content, the story, if you will, having almost, I think, 500 photos. All of that stuff was important to him, and a lot of it, I'm not going to take credit, but, Larry has told me, hey, I've watched your videos on YouTube. I've seen some of the things that you've talked about with these listings, right? Some of the things that are, wow, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is important to have a lot of photos. So he worked very closely with the Bring a Trailer team, and that started, I think, back in technically December, and that took all the way into May. There was some back and forth, I think. They had a photographer come out. They offered that service. Larry took advantage of that in terms of the photos. There was some discussion about those and whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, the listing was amazing. And if you have a Lincoln and maybe you're thinking about selling it in the future, or maybe you're going to buy one and enjoy it for a few years and then sell it, certainly watch some of the videos that I've done on YouTube, because I think I try to do like a non-biased opinion of these different cars, things that you should look for. But if you really break down from a process standpoint how an online auction or an online listing like a classified should go, really there's certain things that you want to do, if you can, to make that sale more appealing. It's kind of like in the old days, you would list your car in the Auto Trader, right? That's like old school now. And you'd have someone come to your house. That's how I bought my first car. And you go there Well, when you go to look at someone's car, if the car's vacuumed and it's waxed and it looks nice and it's presentable, that's going to help drive that asking price, instead of in the nowadays that we deal with, you see something on Facebook, you go to the house or someone comes over and they're like, oh man, they cut you at your knees and they want to give you half and this and that. It's a little bit different world, but when you look at the online classified piece of it, make the car presentable, provide a ton of photos. I think of things, if I'm going to do a listing or I'm going to sell anything, I try to think of everything and type it up in notes and bullet point it so that my goal is that people aren't going to just ask the general questions, okay? I think we've all experienced they're still going to come and ask some things here and there, but seriously, if you're selling a car, and you post no photos underneath it, the first question that people should ask on these Lincolns is, hey, do you have any photos of the car on a lift or the car jacked up? I want to see if there's any rust, and things like that. And I've said this before in my videos, you'll often hear people describe a car as 99% rust-free. When someone says that, oftentimes they have no clue what they're even saying. There's no visible rust. That's what they think, but believe me, there's tens of thousands of cars, I'm sure, that have been sold with the moniker of there's 99% rust-free, and there's rust, of course. So again, going back to the point, Larry had watched some of the content on my YouTube channel, and I try to think, hey, how could someone list a car and get more money for it? What are some of the things that you can do photo-wise? What are some of the things you could potentially do to the car? Spend a little bit of money on a car to help drive a good solid price for it. So with that being said, I got to thank Larry again for coming on the last episode. The previous episode recap is brought to you by, as I mentioned at the top, Griot's Garage. It's GRIOTS Garage.com. Their moniker is Have Fun in Your Garage. The cool thing I like about their company as well is everything from microfibers to different solutions, but they also have really fantastic spray bottles. And I know that may sound funny. I've often bought spray bottles from Home Depot over the years, and the spray bottles that I've used from Griot's, man, they're fantastic, and they make the detailing job a little bit more enjoyable. So hit up Griot's Garage, or like I said, often at your local auto parts store. If you're in the detail section, you'll see Griot's products. Give them a try, and let me know what you think. Leave a comment on the podcast review if you've tried any of these products, and give me a thumbs up. Okay, next we got Lincoln Life updates, and there's not a lot to share here, but there is one kind of sad thing that's happened really in the car community, and I had actually just picked up on this right at the beginning of June, so about a day before this is apparently going to air, I believe. I'm going to get it out probably June 2nd. So I just noticed, just in my feed, I did not see anything about this, unfortunately, but Bob from Strange Engineering, and his last name is Stange. Okay, so I know the history goes back with Strange Engineering, who makes differentials, drive lines, the Ford 9-inch, all kinds of ring and pinion gears, rear ends, brakes. They've done all of this stuff for many, many, many years, and his last name again is Stange, and they basically started the company Strange. He added the R in there and came up with this company, Strange Engineering. And he was around a very long time. You can go on their website. You can Google. There's different information about these guys. What made me think of them recently is I have seen over the course of time, Googling information, a couple of Lincolns that Bob had his hands on over the years. And ironically enough, his 61 sedan that he owned for a long time was at my house back in December, 6 months ago. And you might be scratching your head going, well, how the hell was it at your house? Well, my friend Chris Dunn, shout out to Chris Dunn from Lincoln Land, Chris was at a Concours d'Elegance, concours show around my house, pretty much a stone's throw from here. And we had linked up on that Friday. We were at the show all day Saturday. And Chris cruised over after the show on Saturday, and the car was here, and I ended up doing a feature on it, the 61 sedan, for the Lincoln Addict YouTube channel. And that was like the first in-depth review I've kind of done of a car, so to speak, on the channel. So check it out. It's got some solid numbers on the views. And that car, Chris had reinforced that, hey, that was Bob's car. And I had the opportunity to kind of go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Now, Bob, I think, was H-R-S-T-A-N-G-E. Stange, I don't know how to pronounce his last name correctly, probably. But everybody called him Bob. And the sedan Chris had acquired from Bob over the course of time at some point, and it's a very, very cool car. A couple little customized things on it. It's got the 64-65 hubcaps, which Chris put on. That was an NOS set that Chris owned. But it also has a couple other things, like with electric door locks and a few things that were done. But really, overall appearance looks factory, looks stock for the most part. When I posted the car not too long ago, a lot of people chimed in. They said, man, I love it. Really, not many people picked up on that it had different hubcaps from 64-65. So kind of a cool thing, just kind of reinforces how stylish those cars are from the factory. But getting back to it, Bob of Strange Engineering passed away, as I mentioned. He was born April 9th of 1939, and he passed away on May 22nd of 2023, 84 years old, and certainly a loss for the car community. He also has, I think he still owned the 61 Continental convertible, which is a cool car. I actually recently posted about that, ironically enough, back in May. Not a lot of photos that float around about that one, but it was in a magazine write-up that Chris Dunn had shared with me, I believe, if I remember correctly. So rest in peace to Bob. And to his friends and family, if anybody happens to hear this, again, thoughts and prayers are with you guys during this very difficult time. I know, mid-'80s, a lot of people would say, hey, lived a good life, but it doesn't make it any easier to lose someone. My wife's grandfather is 94, 93, 94. And, we enjoy the time we spend with him, but we know, losing anyone at any age is not easy, certainly. So, rest in peace, Bob from Strange Engineering. That's the only update that I want to cover this week. I want to try to keep it short and sweet a little bit. The Lincoln Life Updates is brought to you by Steel Rubber. Again, STEELE rubber.com. You can actually go right there and select the year, make, model, and style of your car, whether it's a sedan or convertible, or if you happen to have the coupe from 66 to 68. They make products for all of these cars, and you might be blown away at how many they actually make. Certainly, if your weather stripping is really bad, I always suggest that you go out here on the website, you make a list. I made a little spreadsheet and basically put the pricing, put the part numbers. Right now for 64 convertible, they have 46 items they're showing, which is a lot. There's heater and AC gasket set. There's front door edge weather stripping. There's the rear roof sail rail pads. There's a lot that you can kind of learn about some of the things that you may need to replace eventually on your 60s Lincoln Continental. So go out there, check them out, and let Steel Rubber know that Lincoln Addict sent you. Oh, and by the way, they do have a new reproduction pedal pad that fits over the full perimeter of the brake pedal, precisely like a factory fit. Again, steelrubber.com. All right, next we got Lincoln sales, and this is kind of just trends I'm seeing or anything that I feel that will kind of fall under this category. And the number one thing is kind of what I hinted at earlier. Bringatrailer.com certainly has just become kind of this mecca place for a wide variety of vehicles. As I've said in the past, certainly we are not in cahoots at all with Bring a Trailer. I would love for them to be a sponsor, to be totally honest. But Bring a Trailer has really just shot to the forefront of cool stuff in terms of cars. There's guys hang out on there. I'm sure retired guys hang out on there all the time and comment. It's pretty crazy. If you don't believe me, go to bringatrailer.com and type in Lincoln Continental and go down to the car that sold on May 23rd. titled 33-year owned 62 Lincoln Continental convertible. And when you scroll down, you'll see there are 106 comments, and there's a lot of interaction from people, including the owner that sold the car. Now, I hinted earlier, Larry Heibloom, he was on last episode. It's no secret. This was his car he sold, and it was very exciting just a week ago or so on May 23rd when it sold, because I got a chance to see the auction kind of winding down. Now, I did go live through Instagram about an hour before, maybe 45 minutes before the auction ended. We had some plans that night, so I couldn't stay live the entire time, but I talked a little bit about what was kind of going down. Obviously, the time was ticking down, and as I mentioned in the past, Bring a Trailer's got this cool feature built in where if someone bids, it resets the shot clock, I think, to like 2 minutes. It's 1 or 2 minutes, something like that. But it helps to avoid the swipe bidding is kind of what I call it. I don't know what the official term is, but I'm sure it's all happened to us before. You're on eBay, you're excited to win something, and someone comes in at the very last millisecond and gets it. And for those that don't know, there's even things that people download into their Firefox browser that allows them to swipe at the last millisecond, where you basically can't even win on something, which kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And with Bring a Trailer, they have circumvented that because, again, it resets the shot clock. So what started to happen on this car is the final day or so, we knew the action was going to kind of pick up. And if I remember correctly, I'm scrolling down here, on the 23rd, it started the day pretty early at around mid 70,000. I think it was at, and 76,000 at 12:30 in the afternoon on the 23rd. So from there until the next 5-6 hours, it basically doubled, which is awesome. Now, we did expect that. Obviously a lot of people are kind of just waiting. They know in their mind what they can afford, and they're just going to kind of bid it up and kind of see and see where it goes. So it starts jumping from 76. A couple guys are throwing in bids, getting it to high 70s, gets to mid 80s pretty quick, mid 90s pretty quick. It goes from 98 to 110 within about 10 minutes. And it starts jumping up from there, 115, 118, 123, 130, blah, blah, blah. Boom. It gets all the way up to right around the reserve, and I'll leave it at this. Basically, it hits $145,042. So just shy of $150,000, and that was either the reserve, or I think Bring a Trailer will step in at the very last, depending on if it gets to that last little bit. And if there's any discussion, I think they'll kind of go back to the buyer and things like that and say, hey, this is where we're at. But basically, let's call it this. It was $145,000, and I believe with everything, he said he nets like right at $150,000. So whatever deal they made at the very end, it brought the seller to $150,000, and what $145,000 to $150,000 range was his reserve. So this car sold for $150,000. Now, I did mention in the live video that day that it was one of the higher prices paid. I mean, you can really kind of slice and dice this. There was a car a few years ago, I know, that went for over $300,000. There's been some that have went JFK tied to the Kennedy family. They've went for a lot of money. The JFK cars, I always kind of put in a class of their own because you have a name associated with it that's going to drive that sale. The one a few years ago, I think, that has that high water mark in the 300,000s, I got to look back in my notes, but I think that was a 65 maybe, and that one had documentation showing like hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in it, which was pretty crazy. Because if it's the car I'm thinking of, the black car, to me, it wasn't even as nice as what Larry had. Now, Larry's 62 was that bluish color, right, the light blue color, And to me, the documentation right there helped carry like what this car was worth. So to me, I know some people are going to think I'm crazy. I think the person got a good deal on it. I mean, it's $150,000 for a car that had receipts of basically like, almost $200,000. I know a lot of people will say, hey, you never get what you put into it. That often happens in the custom car world. You might have a project like I have, like a mini truck that, you put a lot of money in, and then, you can't turn around and sell it for $100,000. No one's going to buy it for that. So there's always that on the scale, but we know with these Lincolns, with only 3,000 to 3,500 made per year, it makes them a little bit more rare. And when someone gets an opportunity to own one that's really nice, like this one, certainly they're going to jump at it if they can. I do believe the car is coming to Florida based upon what I understand, and I'm excited. Hopefully I'll get to see it at one of these shows down here. It's going to be on the east coast of Florida, so more to come on that. But again, I just wanted to kind of reinforce, congrats to Larry. If you want to hear more about this subject, you can go on YouTube. I did a video talking about the listing, and then I did a video that came out, I think the day after it sold, and I talk a little bit more detail about it. But bottom line, $150,000, congratulations. It really helps the entire community from a selling perspective. As I said in my live video that day, though, if you are someone looking to buy a car, don't get discouraged by the price at $150,000, because although some people may think now their car's worth $150,000, this car was really in a league of its own, which I've always said anytime I've talked about it. It really set a nice bar for someone that says, hey, I want a car at that level, right? Because the money was invested in it. So you're typically not going to see a car that nice, of course. But rest assured, congratulations to Larry for that sale. Now, there was another car that I wanted to talk about briefly. I actually posted this one the other day. I'm constantly looking for information on Lincolns, as you would imagine, doing Lincoln Addict Podcast. And there's some things that will go kind of under my nose, and I won't know anything about it, and I'll find it, and then I'll kind of talk about it. But there was an article on sportscarmarket.com, and the article, I don't know if it's free to read technically. I was able to read it the other day, but it talks about a car that sold that was a 61 Lincoln Continental convertible in sunburst yellow. And there was something really unique about it. I kind of quoted a couple of different spots out there, and that was posted on Facebook and Instagram. But this car sold in June of 2018 for $103,600 at the RM auction, and it was part of the Dingman collection. So I know you're going, what the hell is that? Michael Dingman was on the board of directors of Ford Motor Company. He acquired this car in 2014 post-restoration from another well-known Lincoln enthusiast. It showed, get this, 853 miles in 2018 and only 1,398 miles when it was co-signed to Broad Arrow Sales. Okay, that was the last auction house that sold it, and Broad Arrow Auctions sold it November 2022, so just half a year ago, for $117,600. Of course, they were quoted with saying it appears to be a turnkey show car, which would be expected given its style. And basically, here's the crazy thing about it. We have no way to verify the mileage. I have a hard time thinking that it really only had less than 1,000 miles and it got up to 1,400. Is it possible? Absolutely. Definitely absolutely possible. But, with these cars, it's like, hey, unless there was someone that could say, yeah, it sat in my family's garage for 60 years and we hardly ever drove it except for they started it, moved it forward and backward, if that. It just makes it hard for me to fathom a car like this just wasn't driven at all. Now, if it is true, obviously one of a kind, possibly the lowest mileage Lincoln Continental convertible or sedan from the 60s that still exists. I know John Lyman from Stinkin' Lincoln, I've had him on a couple times. He's got a very low mile 64 sedan that he's, I think, willing to part with. He's got a line in the sand on the number. It's a high number, but I think he'll get it if somebody wants a low-mile car. I think it's around 30,000 miles. We've talked about it when we've had him on before. But this car, it kind of had my interest piqued because I would kind of like to find more information about, really, is it a 1,400-mile car? There's a couple things, right? If you've been around cars, either one, the odometer went over 100,000 and it's maybe 100,140, or it could be that the speedometer was disconnected all that time. But if RM and Broad Arrow auctions, a lot of times they're going to go through as much information as they can to validate something, okay? So maybe they were able to validate it, maybe some photos, these people that have a lot of money, maybe they were able to say, yeah, the car was, in my collection. I don't know. But regardless, I just wanted to share. It was kind of unique. I just came across it. I didn't hear anything about it last November at Broad Arrow auctions, but I'm going to kind of watch that a little bit closer. The reason why I bring it up is, think about it. If this car really only had 1,500 miles or so, it sold for less money than what Larry got for his car. That's insane, right? Now, granted, the color drives things. Not everyone wants a sunburst, kind of a yellow car. 61 may not be as appealing to someone maybe as a 62. I didn't see a lot of photos. I mean, I saw some. Don't get me wrong. I do have some photos here. The Dingman collection was just unreal. If you just Google Michael Dingman, Dingman collection, you'll see like cars and neon signs and dealership signs. I mean, it's mind-blowing what this guy had. So certainly just that name tied to this car could have easily been, a car maybe that had 1,400 miles. I don't know. But it was super clean. I'd want to know how much of the restoration was done. I mean, if it was low-mile car, you would think, hey, just clean this car up. But the auction, I did quote by saying that it was post-restoration, so I don't know how much went into it. But regardless, I'll probably share a little bit more now that I'm talking about it on Lincoln Addict Podcast. And Lincoln Sales is brought to you by our family over at AccuAir. If you're looking to add air suspension to your vehicle, AccuAir.com. That's ACCUAir.com. They have various different products, including E-Level, which is like electronic leveling, and you set the car, and when you start the car, it will auto level to wherever you have it preset. All right, next we got Lincolns in the movies, TV shows, music videos, and or album covers. So this one is one that I don't know that I'm going to watch, but we've seen some promo stuff, photos, videos related to a new HBO, or should I say Max. That's what they're calling their new app, dropping the HBO name. It's kind of gotten some bad reviews. It's called The Idol, and the only reason I'm mentioning it is it comes out on June 4th, 6/4, and some of the promo shots and videos I mentioned feature a 64 Lincoln Continental convertible, and it's the artist known as Weeknd, Weeknd. He, of course, played the Super Bowl a couple years back, and a very talented artist. You either love or hate his music, I would say, but it was unique to me because of the Lincoln Continental. Now, I know he was previously on a cover of a magazine. I think it had a 61 or 62 Lincoln on it. And then there's also, I think, his personal Lincoln Continental that was in one of his music videos. So he's no stranger to using a Lincoln either in photo shoots or videos. And in this case, Max is going to be debuting this show called The Idol. I want to thank Kelly at Old Lincoln Parts. She had posted one of the images that I reshared. So shout out to Kelly and team at Old Lincoln Parts there in Clearwater. The reviews that I've read on it, not sure that I'm going to watch it. It's probably not really my demographic. I think Warner Brothers, they seem, Discovery Warner Brothers with this whole big merger they've done, they've seemed to make some weird decisions, of course, to try to pay down some of that like $50 billion in debt that I've heard that they had to take on. But I don't know. It seems like it's destined to flop. Some of the reviews have been just not good. However, I typically don't just look at reviews to read, to decide if I'm going to watch something. A perfect example is I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, but I plan to see Dial of Destiny. I know the reviews have been mixed on it, but I'm going to go. So again, Lincoln's in the movies, TV shows, music videos, and or album covers. This one is dropping on June 4th, ironically 6/4, and it's called The Idol, I believe, and it features a 64 Lincoln Continental convertible. It was hard to tell if it was black with red interior or if it was the dark blue with red interior. I assume black, but some people chimed in and said, oh yeah, that's the dark blue version. Hard to tell, so I may have to tune in just to see some of the shots with the car, but for what it's worth, that is what I have to cover this episode as it relates to TVs in movies, TV shows, music videos, and or album covers. Next, Smuggler's Blues and Rita Hayworth updates my 64 and 65 Lincoln Continental convertibles. Love my cars. I'm so thankful to have them. Really no updates to share. I did drive the 64. I went to Rides by the River in May that morning on Saturday, and then I cruised over to a show called Made of Steel Show in Dover, Florida. Made it home that evening and just had a good time. It was so hot. Of course, it's May. It's always hot in Florida, it seems like, but May is especially hot. So I don't know how much more cruising I'm going to do in the blue car right now. I do need to get with Blair, and I need to finish the AC install on the 65. I'm, of course, upgrading that thanks to the help of Blair and TC over in Clearwater. So I've got to get that done so that project doesn't continue to linger. And then what I want to do is finish kind of a wrap-up video of what it would take for you to upgrade your AC, and hopefully TC and or Blair will be able to offer some potential options for people that are looking to maybe buy the whole kit if they want to upgrade their car as well. So more to come. Lastly, the shout-outs. I would just want to give a huge shout-out to Tony Boss Bolin, my brother. He has a write-up in the new LCOC publication. Again, many of you are Lincoln enthusiasts or potential Lincoln owners or one-day future owners. If you go to lcoc.org, that's the Lincoln and Continental Owners Club, often referred to as Lincoln Continental Owners Club. You can subscribe to be a member there, and you will get access to their publication. Again, you can go under the different regions there, and you can read different newsletters. I think all of that is free. But certainly, I think David did a fantastic write-up on Tony. David and I had lunch one day, and he was looking for guys and just enthusiasts to do a feature on. And I said, hey, you really should do a write-up on Tony. He's got an awesome facility there where he works and plenty of cars. And, of course, the write-up was awesome. So I think if you subscribe to LCOC as a member, I think they'll send you the last publication. So if you want to get in now, they'll send that out to you. But shout out to Tony Boss Bolin. You can follow him on Instagram at Boss, B-O-S-S, Bolin, B-O-L-I-N, or Tony Boss Bolin on Facebook. He also has Death Row Lincolns, and I think he's going to spin off to another name as well, just to kind of keep it a little bit more PC. But shout out to Tony, one of my best friends, always there to help me out, and can't thank him enough. But great job, David, on an awesome write-up. And shout out to the LCOC. You guys are really doing a good job, in my opinion, bridging the gap between some of the old school stuff, some of the new school, some of the new players out there, so to speak. So tip of the cap to you guys. With that being said, I'm sure I forgot something. If I did, my apologies. I'll cover it on the next episode. I do want to thank Jimmy Lincoln for coming on as our next guest. The audio is done. I'm working on that episode. It'll be out in 2 weeks. So jimmy.lincoln.505. He doesn't post a lot on social media, but he's a great guy. He's got a cool story, and he's got a couple of awesome Lincolns. So again, keep it posted to Lincoln Addict Podcast. I certainly appreciate all the support. If you want a shirt or sticker, go to LincolnAddict.com. I'll get those shipped out typically within a day or two and get you a tracking number, LincolnAddict.com, for ways to listen to the podcast and to buy merch. Hoping to have more merchandise here in the next couple of months. Stay on the rise, everyone, and enjoy this audio with David Escalante and friends. Some great people from the Lincoln community. Shout out to Suicide Kings, the different chapters, and David Escalante for all of your time. We out of here. Everyone have a safe weekend. Peace. Hey, as I said earlier, I'm super excited to sit down with someone that's been on the list a while, David Escalante. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, Jason. How you doing, brother? David Escalante here, Continental Collective.
Hey, man, really appreciate you coming on. Got a chance to slap hands a couple years back out in your neck of the woods, so to speak. And it's been a long time coming, I know, having you guys on or having yourself on. But why don't you just share a little bit of information about who you are and where you grew up?
Oh, let's see here. So, grew up in L.A. County, born and raised in Whittier, home of. And just kind of grew up in that scene. You know, Whittier Boulevard's been Whittier Boulevard since the 60s. So really heavy into the car scene, around the lifestyle since I was a youth. Building cars since I was a kid. My first pickup was 1956 F100. And that's where it started for me.
Man, that's awesome. You got to have some really good memories of, we all know when you hear the W word, Whittier, that just brings up, you know, the cruising aspect of life and things like that. Did you feel like you were kind of ingrained in it? It sounds like at an early age, seeing all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. So I grew up, my dad, who recently passed, is a brother of two, so he makes three. And they were known as, the Escalante boys from Whittier. Drag racing in a 1966 Plymouth Belvedere with a 426 Hemi.
Wow.
Down Whittier Boulevard.
Wow, man, that's awesome. And I know we talked recently, rest in peace to your pops. I know I lost my dad a little over 5 years ago. It's not easy, but rest in peace to him.
Well, I appreciate that. Same to you, sir. It's one of those events in life, right?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. When I think back to like the late 70s into the 80s, right, and you know the movie industry really, you know, with these blockbuster movies, and you know you had the movie American Graffiti that talked, you know, a lot about the hot rod culture and stuff like that. Do you ever have any memories like when you were younger, like seeing like movie productions and things like that, and music video stuff around kind of the greater Los Angeles area?
Yeah, for sure. I think, to be honest, the memories that really hold the closest to me is really like the family get-togethers when you would see, you know, the different family members' cars. Obviously growing up in Whittier, you know, there's a variety of cars out there. But anything from, you know, the lowriders to the hot rods to the classics. I mean, my first experience with air ride was one of my parents' cars. They had a 64 Mercedes-Benz.
Wow.
That was a cabriolet, a convertible, but it was on air ride. So when we'd walk out of a grocery store, the car would be completely laid out because it had it had a tank leak or whatever it was. But, you know, for that, back in the day, growing up seeing that and having to wait for the compressors to fire up so you can get at a drivable height, that was the coolest.
Right, yeah, because you were getting to experience stuff that people, you know, didn't get to see and for many years down the road when that stuff became like really a hot thing in the car scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Now, you're talking about a lot of cool stuff, right, in this era, and I mean, I can only imagine how epic it was. I follow different pages. My friend Sean has a page called All About Los Angeles. There's so much history. It's rich with like car culture, you know, the bridge that they rebuilt and all kinds of cool stuff. So how does all of that translate to Lincolns? Like, do you find like a little bit later in life that you start falling in love with these cars?
Yeah, I guess, you know, they were always notable, right? But you just didn't see that many of them. And I think that, you know, growing up, I was a bow tie kid, right? Building Chevys just like anybody else. You know, it seems like even the Lincoln community is been crossbred with the Chevy bow tie, right? With all these LS swaps. But it was just one of those cars that was just, I mean, it is what it is, right? They're cool as can be. They're sick.
Yes.
So when I had the opportunity to get my hands on one, I jumped, because building C10 pickups for, you know, numerous years, and I had already probably built 20 cars before I got my first Continental.
All right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. My dad was like, he he bled Chevy. You know, that was the thing. He remembers his grandfather having a Ford, and he had bought this Ford and had an issue or this annoying noise with the transmission, and his grandfather traded it in, and he never looked back. So, like, in the era of our parents and stuff, you know, they were very siloed into, this is the OEM we live by. And it was funny because I was always like, man, was my dad giving me, like, the side eye for, like, liking Lincolns? But he knew that, you know, my birthday being on 11/23, close to the Kennedy assassination, you know, calendar day of the year, kind of always seeing that stuff, it was intriguing. But yeah, like you said, nowadays it's kind of really totally different. I mean, you see some, but you don't see a lot of brand loyalty where people are like, you know what, I don't care, I'm only going to buy said truck. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem like it happens very often these days.
Yeah, no, I think that, well, if we're talking like later, you know, like newer stuff, I think they all sample off each other, right?
Yeah, yep.
You might be buying a Chevy pickup, but it looks identical to that Honda Passport or whatever it is, you know? Right. Because the engineering and the design, it seems like everyone kind of piggybacks off each other and just changes a few items, so to speak, in their design to make it their own. And it's unfortunate because if you go back to earlier years, now don't get me wrong, you know, the Gremlin and the Packard, you know, they were very similar, but there was distinctive differences between them.
Yes.
In that earlier era of designing in the 60s, I think that a lot of that was lost when people started going compact vehicles and more economically friendly. You know, that was never a concern. It was, how many people can we pile in to make it to grandma's house?
Oh, yeah. And I watch a guy on YouTube, Steve Mag. I always say his last name wrong, like Magnate or something like that. But he's the guy that's often on those auctions, and he rattles off all the stats, you know. And I think he worked for Motor Trend back in the day. And when he starts talking about 80s vehicles in the junkyard, you know, it's just kind of like, he's like, yeah, you know, they went front wheel drive, they went this, you know, it wasn't the cool Impalas of the day, you know, and things like that. It was the Cavalier and things. And like you said, I mean, obviously there's regulation and things that kind of drove that, but it's definitely not like the 59s, you know, when they were like 1 year only, and then you start to get into Lincolns and just, I mean, everybody loves the 60s. But speaking of that, like when you think of, you know, I want to transition a little bit real quick and talk about your business. My understanding, though, is, you know, you work on cars, you kind of bring them back up, maybe you do some jobs for people. Can you kind of like break it down, even for me, on what your business is, David?
So the Continental Collective Corporation is a one-stop shop. We specialize in Lincoln Continentals, and when I mean we specialize in Continentals, it's just because I've had my hands on Continentals fairly consistently for the past 15 years. I build and will build any kind of classic car, hot rod, street rod, low rod, as I like to call them, that a client brings in. But as we all know, these Lincoln Continentals, you know, they're just a little bit different than your Chevy Impalas. Mm-hmm. Not to take anything away from either of those cars.
Sure.
They're just engineered, designed, and are mechanically different.
Yes.
So spending some time here just focusing on the Continentals, you know, there's lots of people in the industry that we've reached out to throughout the years where, you know, have had hiccups here or there, and, you know, everyone's always been helpful. But what we do here is we'll take either your grandma's old Continental, and we like to say we revamp it, right? It's the next generation car from an old generation within the family of a hand down. Mm-hmm. So something that might have been a stalker clunker that's been parked for 20 years, however you want to dice it up, bring it in and we'll roll the dice. We can do full restorations as what I classify as my timeless builds, which is keeping everything as original theme and feel as it was once on that showroom floor.
Okay.
So we do full restorations, full engine builds, suspension work. We change out all your fuel lines, all your brake lines. We'll upgrade your brake system. We'll do all new interior that matches. We also do the convertible top replacements and upgrade systems with the newer style relays, mm-hmm. and come in and get all that a little bit more functional. The biggest problem with these cars faced in their time was the cost of money and man hours it took to fix them versus the availability and parts that you might get when you're shopping for a Tri-5 or an Impala or a Duster, right? So a lot of these things have sat for so long, and it's just revamping them, bringing them back to life. What I like to say is we're keeping classics alive. One at a time, we keep them rolling.
I love it, and that's something that I've seen a little bit better mix of, like the old school, we'll call them the purist, and the new school. There's always going to be some people that go, hey, these cars should be exactly the way they left the factory, blah, blah, blah. But you also have a lot of people now that respect someone that goes, you know what, they're keeping them on the road. And I think those couple of words together like resonates with what you just said. Keeping these cars on the road, to me, that's important. You and I both know some of the usual suspects that sell these cars, right? And a lot of these cars that are being sold now to be refurbished, they, would have maybe been just parts cars 30 or 40 years ago. So to me, I give a tip of the cap to a guy like you or someone at their house that's willing to put the effort into a car, no matter what the engine is or what the interior looks like, bring it back so someone can roll it.
Correct. And another thing that we like to strive on is making your vehicle unique enough that it's just not the cookie cutter,
yes.
right? Let's talk back in 2011 when I decided to do the B-pillar delete. B-pillar delete had never been seen before on the market. Although people may say that's how it might have been originally designed. However, I believe that I might have been one of the first individuals, if not the first individual, that actually put that into play.
Nice.
And that was debuted at one of our slab tests that was put together back in 2016. I believe I debuted that car, and that was the Two-Tone Terror, which was a 1963 sedan with a B-pillar delete and then a built 390 motor as its drivetrain.
Awesome. Yeah, I know there's been some cool mods over the years, and obviously you and I both know on the sedans, that one is one that it's like, you don't think about it much, but then when you see the B-pillar gone, you're like, yeah, it should have been that way from the factory,
Well, it's definitely a nice touch, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and like you said, that's the cool thing. You guys are kind of putting the personal touch, and being around these Lincolns a while, and I followed them for many years, there's kind of the normal trends that, some guys will joke and go the slab starter kit, the certain wheels everybody runs, they bag them, this and that. But to me, it always is cool to go to a show or see the photos online where there's something unique. I know there's a guy named Chassis by IHA. It's like IHA is his name. He built a Roadster one a couple years ago, which was unique, right? I mean, it's not going to be for everyone, especially where I'm at in Florida with it raining. But like you're saying, to put your personal touch on them and satisfy your client, that's fantastic. What are some of the other things that either are trends or little things that you guys have been doing, or where you think that the scene is going as far as, the work on these cars?
So this last event, Temecula Rod Run, I debuted my 62 Nebraska car. I don't know if you remember, this is that car that I flew out to Nebraska, sight unseen, purchased it, and drove it all the way back to California.
I remember you told me about it. Yep.
Yeah, so built this car here recently, and we went ahead and did a navy cloth top, and I did custom embroidery on the cloth top.
Awesome.
So on the driver's side and passenger side, I have little stencil that was designed to be embroidered that carries just past the header bow into the front window section of the driver and passenger side. So, and then there's also a little touch of embroidery above the rear glass. So I think along with that, and then I'm also running dual power antennas on the 62.
I did not see that, but that's pretty cool.
So that's more like, this is like my California build, right? Because if you remember, like with back in the Impalas, you had the California edition that ran with the dual antennas that you see on almost all your common lowriders throughout the states now.
Yes. Yep.
So it's the little touches like that, I think, that set us apart from the cookie cutters, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've always said, to your point, is it's not that you're dissing the competition. But I mean, for you being in business, you want to be, let's be honest, anybody that's in business that's striving to be better, you always want to be a cut above, right? In your mind, at least. And with your clients, you want them to be like, hey, they're getting some cool stuff. We've got the ideas, and the key word is you can execute it. And when you've been talking, I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff, David. Like that's a key word, it sounds like, in your business there, execution.
Correct. It's the conceptuality of everything, right? You have to be able to conceptualize it and then to put it into play is where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
And anyone building these cars in this industry, hats off, especially all these do-it-yourself builders. I mean, we all started as a do-it-yourself builder. I mean, I started building because I had children at a young age. Money wasn't there. So I was a junkyard builder. I had a 1960 Chevy pickup. I needed parts. I went to a junkyard. I pulled parts. I learned how to take them apart. I learned how to put them together. I learned how to make things integrate with each other by process of elimination. And that's how you become a fabricator and a modifier.
I love it, man. What gets you excited every year? I know there's a few events that go on, and I want to ask you about a couple of those, but you mentioned the Temecula Rod Run. Is that an event that seems like it's grown? Is that one that just really gets you excited every year?
It's different every year, right? Because, we've been playing with this little bit of a backdraft with the COVID, no one going out. I think that this year, the Temecula Rod Run, as far as the club in general, and I'm speaking of Suicide Kings Car Club, we really wanted to focus on the Continental community and also the aspect of the California cars that really have some good numbers out here in the States. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to collectively get together with the people in the community and make a unified front with showing the support to these cars. And I believe we pulled it off.
Yeah, I think so. And I want to be very clear with David Escalante. With Suicide Kings, the club's been around a while, and you guys have a couple of different chapters, and I always love seeing the photos, and now, obviously, Instagram is kind of ruled by videos. And like you said, with getting the crew together, that was a good thing. And my understanding, though, and you can keep me honest, is you're kind of at the helm of the club now, and you help really steer, you're going to be steering it into the next, decade.
Yes, correct. In most aspects, I am at the helm, so to speak, obviously supported by everybody that's within the club, because as a club, it's not the actual name that carries the weight. Of course, we are distinguished with the name, but it's the individuals that make up the club that really push us into that next decade. And I have a great counterpart, Mr. Ron Doyle, who we kind of got together with some members that were strong in the club, and we collectively decided to push forward and carve this path without looking back. And it's reaching out to, the other individuals out there that represent themselves in the community, reaching out to the Suicide Slab following, reaching out to the Raddies following, reaching out to the Lincoln Life following, so that we can all get together, because these are all good people in the industry, although eye to eye might not always see the same way at times.
Yep.
But when it comes down to it, the roots of it are the vehicles that we travel in and to represent what we have going on.
Yeah, I love it. I've been in the mini truck scene 25 years, a little bit longer, and it's clubs, and it's it's very similar, right, to any different genre out there where there's the car clubs and things like that. What I've always thought, and you started at the beginning kind of mentioning the lowrider community and Whittier and things. I've always looked as an outsider into like the lowrider clubs and saw how these guys travel in packs and they respect each other, and there's a lot of friendly competition, right? Sometimes it's maybe not friendly, but it's it's hardcore stuff, and it's really cool to me to see being a fan and an outsider to a certain extent over here in Florida, seeing all of the crews kind of come together in that camaraderie.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always a good time. Different crews, different people, what do they say? Different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? And it's really, but when it really comes down to it, it's really about the vehicles. And we try to see past the different personalities and aspects and push forward to what we all have in common. And that's hard. You know, speaking with some friends throughout the last few months, you know, what took place here recently at the Temecula Rod Run had been attempted for the past several years. And it wasn't until, you know, early 2016, right? This was about a year after Suicide Kings was established in 2015.
Okay.
In 2016, we had the first Suicide Kings Slab Fest.
Okay.
2017, we also had a Suicide Slabs and a Suicide Kings Slab Fest.
Got it.
Both hold very good numbers, good times. And it wasn't until like 2018 where we had a triplet in there, which would have been Suicide Kings, Suicide Slabs, and the Ratties.
Right.
So, but, you know, in all aspects, this all started with two groups, right? Two types of groups. You had an internet-based group that was the Suicide Slabs that is by its own animal,
sure,
with a heavy internet presence. And then you had the car club, first and only 1961 to 1969 Lincoln Continental Car Club. Those two started it. Ratties then later formed off and became part of it and are now still in the game and are heavy hitters with us.
Yes.
And all of us collectively make up this community. And it's a good thing.
I love it. And I'll tell you this, there's a guy in our truck community that has a very successful podcast, and his whole thing is called Truck Talk Media. And he has a great phrase that he catchphrased years ago, and it's called, and he goes, and he always says, you know, the trucks are cool, but the people are cooler, right? It's right around those words. And we've always said that in the truck scene, that when you had people that wanted to get in your club, it's like, hey, if the guy's cool or the chick's cool, the truck's going to come along with it, right? And that's kind of what I've always seen. And to me, seeing these communities get together, I mean, you've heard this term before, you know, we're stronger together, you know, and that's what I love seeing. And again, I'm thousands of miles away, but like I see it as a fan of all of this stuff and go, wow, man, these guys are, you know, the unity is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, being a club, you know, we get some pebbles kicked at us, right? Because we do require a fee, right? An annual fee. But the annual fee is a cost of a hat, a shirt, a trinket, a keychain, a lantern, whatever it may be. So it's like your annual fee is basically your next year starter pack for all new product.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that gets banked in house where the club's making money.
Right.
Everything goes back to the individual, and whatever percentage is held off, it goes towards the chapters that are representing. Like, we just bought all brand new awnings, easy up awnings for everybody that's got our club logo blasted all over.
Nice.
We pay for events for the brothers and sisters in our club, you know. So although that there is that comes along with it, but what also comes along with it is the uniqueness of it being the first and only Continental Club.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely like it. And it's funny that if you think about, you know, for many, many years, there wasn't much, except for many of us know the term LCOC, Lincoln Continental Owners Club, and you had these old school, you know, I'm not going to call them old, but I mean, let's be honest, kind of a lot of the old school guys, and they had the LincolnForum.net, and that was kind of their thing. And I know that, you know, a couple of those guys, like with Jim Ayers and some of the Western guys out there, they have tried to, you know, kind of get a little bit more ingrained with social media, right, and things like that. But I'll tell you this, you know, seeing the 61 through 69 clubs like Suicide Kings, and like you said, first and only for you guys, in terms of those years, it's really unique because when you get all those cars together, you get a lot of thumbs up and a lot of smiles. I can tell it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you know, for this year alone, so the NorCal chapter up here, which I was the lead for, we actually were honored to be the featured club for the 2023 39th annual Good Guys event.
Amazing.
We were the featured club. So, we're going to make the magazine, we're going to have a full spread. And, that's one of those first stops, right? We've also had some publications with a couple other of our members, our first president, Alex Melendez, and his car, and also Ken with his coupe, his 66 coupe. They made the magazine cover for, I believe it was for an Asian magazine. I'm not sure what ethnicity it was for. Please forgive me.
Sure.
But they made the cover of that magazine. So, we're definitely getting the eyes upon us, and it's nice because for so long in the community, it was always about the Chevys.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of you hinted earlier, there's been some work done to try to bring people together. And like you said, Temecula Rod Run this year was kind of the icing on the cake. But I have also wanted to be able to go to an event, which Tony and I did, and a couple of our buddies, we went to an event a few years ago. It was an LCOC event here in Florida. And, they welcomed us. They didn't say, hey, this one guy's got a 64, it's a donk, right? Maybe not you and I style, but that's what it was. And, the LCOC, the Lincoln Continental Owners Club, which obviously spans, all Lincolns, not just the 61 through 69 Continentals, those guys opened us, took us in with open arms and said, hey, come on, register, have a good time. And to me, going back to the message that you said earlier, that's so important. Because it shouldn't be like, oh, well, you have a car that's raised, that's a donk, we don't want you. Oh, you have a car that's lowered, we don't want you. Hey, we all got the same passion.
Yeah, definitely. We all have the same love. We just decorate them differently.
Yes, good way to say it.
And back to that Temecula Rod Run. So that event there was a great turnout. I think we had 70 vehicles, 70 Lincoln Continentals, 61 through 69 that showed interest. We had 60 Lincoln Continentals registered that then turned into 58 vehicles registered. And by the time it was the time for the show, I think we ended up with 50, 55 plus that made it. Now, we even had some guys that came out just for the Friday night cruise. However, they didn't stay for the event. And then we had some guys that just came out for the event and didn't go to the cruise. So, the numbers are a little bit loose there, but the total amount, we were in the 50 plus category. And I'll tell you what, getting that many Lincoln Continentals together outside of a production date of these vehicles being together at the manufacturer was definitely a good shot.
Yeah, all the planets were aligned, that's for sure. I have a buddy that's long been in the truck world. He was texting me photos. He sent me like 10 photos, and I was like, yeah, that's the Suicide King. Some of them I don't always know, but I recognize some of the cars. I was like, yep, there's the Kings right there, SK. And it seems like, and I've read a little bit about Temecula Rod Run, that whole city of Temecula is it really is a kind of a gearhead type community, and what better place to have a rod run. Now, let me ask you this, talking a little bit about the community. I think, one thing that I've always noticed in the truck world is that you've got a delineation line, you've got a business, and, you're out there and you've explained what you do, and to me it sounds like I didn't realize you did as much as you did, right? But then you start talking about the Lincoln community, like we've been talking about, and you mentioned some different crews, right? And I think that's a really cool thing, that there are different groups out there, but we all have the same objective.
Correct. Yeah, what you'll notice is that, and not calling anybody out or saying any group, club, or whatever it may be, is that we're not afraid to say their name, right? We all belong in this community. Suicide Kings, Suicide Slabs, Lincoln Addict yourself with your own following, Lincoln Life, and the Ratties. Although we all don't put on our pants the same way, we all drive the same type of vehicles. So spreading the love amongst the community is where it's key. And being able to get us all together is great. And, different geographical locations, they just kind of have different takes on their vehicles and what they do to them. So it's always killer to see what's going on. I'd love to, reach out. I got some buddies right now we can call.
Wow.
To spread some Continental love.
Dude,
Tell you what,
I love it.
Hey, Jason, I'm going to let this gentleman introduce himself.
Go ahead.
I'm Jerry. I'm live in San Francisco, born and raised, and I'm with a car club called Frisco's Finest. I got a 16 Continental. Yeah, I've been doing cars for over 50 years.
That's awesome. Now, is this Jerry that had the green Lincoln?
Yeah, the green-eyed lady.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerry, I follow you on Instagram, and dude, talking with Escalante, as you know, and we're just talking about the love of Lincolns and, what those guys making their mark, and it's really cool. He had told me he was going to surprise me with a few people. I didn't know it was going to be you, but you really embody the culture out there in California, and I know that you do as well. It lives in you, man.
Oh, wow, thank you. What a nice compliment. Yeah, it's not hard to do something when you love it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always see you posting photos with your family, and that's something Escalante reinforced earlier, how important that is for the culture, and it seems like you can attest to that.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I just had a new baby boy, so, he's going to get introduced too. His car's going to go to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember seeing your car. I think you had gotten some more work done to it and a bunch of stuff. But seeing that thing bagged on those wide white wall tires and the wire wheels I think you have on it, dude, that thing is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And
yeah, I'm doing some other things to it now, kind of changing the landscape. But yeah, looking forward to finishing that project up in the next couple months.
Well, I hope to make it out. I've only been to the San Francisco Bay Area one time for work many years ago, and I hope to make it out there again. One day I want to drive across the Golden Gate Bridge. Maybe I'll link up with you and we could do it in a vert.
Oh, definitely. We could definitely do that.
I'll pay the toll, but I heard it's expensive.
Yeah, the flight will cost you $200, and the gas across the bridge will cost you $300.
Wait, I don't know. Maybe I'm out. No, I'm just kidding. Escalante, that's cool that you got Jerry on. It's funny. As soon as I heard him talk, I was like, I wonder if this is Jerry. And Jerry, how do you say your last name?
Griego.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I see the grandkids and stuff, and you're a family dude, and that's just amazing, brother.
Yeah.
You may remember I posted a screenshot one time. There's I'm big into hip hop, and there's a guy from that's in the hip hop community. His name's G-Eazy. You may recall, and I think he used your car on one of his singles one time, and you were like, "Hey, that's my car," and I was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah. That was I was surprised at that because it was like, I don't go down that street that often, so I remember exactly the day and the time that I was driving.
That was crazy.
I was like, wow.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Well, man, keep representing the Bay, but most importantly, keep representing the Lincolns, dude, and your family. It's so cool that David patched you in here.
Yeah, you got Dave, man. David Escalante, he's been doing stuff for Lincolns since I got into it. I've always been into cars, but, I've always wanted to get a Lincoln, and it was like, when I was like 9 years old, my dad showed me these cars, man, and I was like, and these things are just, you just get hooked, And as I got into the game and finding out who the players were and what people were doing and how big this was, I got to build a friendship with Dave. Mm-hmm. Not realizing that I was with one of these, like a guru, man, of Lincoln's. That this cat is innovative and he's just always thinking and making things happen. I mean, he's completely confident, man, and it just and his thought process is just amazing. That he would come up with things, to make the Lincoln world and people in it, really have an opportunity to go, different directions.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I was out in California with a truck magazine, and Dave was like, "Man, I'll come hang out." And I was like, "Cool." And when he got there, I didn't realize he was going to bring his car and stuff. And I was like, "Man, how long you live from here?" He was like, "An hour or two." And I was like, "Dang, man, you just jumped right in, like no hesitation." Was like, "Yo." And then I learned a little bit later on that, he works on these cars and he's passionate about them. And obviously when you work on your stuff, it gives you that confidence to go, man, I'll drive anywhere,
Yeah. And he does. He shows up in everything, just about, that goes on, the stuff that I put out and my group of guys, that we put cruises together and different happenings and, and benefits for children and stuff around Christmas time. And, we do a lot of things, for the community. And Dave's always showing up with his Lincoln, man. And there's always something new to talk about,
Yeah, the last thing I'll tell you is I remember about a year ago, you posted a photo and you can kind of see, I don't know if it's the Bay Bridge or I think it's the Golden Gate Bridge, but you were parked down by the water and there were some waves. And it was a really cool photo seeing your car aired out and then seeing, kind of the bottom of the bridge. And I've always wanted to kind of visit that area a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
And that was a picture that I've always wanted to take. And it was just so happens that the weather was right. You could see the whole bridge.
Yep.
And, I was able to get that spot. In fact, I was kind of lucky because right when I pulled out, a huge wave hit, and it would have just.
Oh my God!
it would have got me, and there was a few people around, and they were like, "Man, you just made it, perfect time." And I was like, "Yeah," because everywhere where I was parked was soaking wet.
You're like, "Man, I'm not a surfer, man. I'm just trying to be here to get this photo with my car." But yeah, man.
But before I parked there, I watched it for a while to see if the water was coming. It was dry underneath there, and it was, I was like, man, this is a good spot, but, I'm glad I moved. Yeah, right on time.
Hey, the last thing is David doesn't know this. I'm a Warriors fan, and I was really sad to see him not be able to come back on this one, but we'll be back next year, man.
Yeah, I kind of had the feeling about, I'm a big basketball fan. Of course, I'm a Warriors fan. And I kind of had a feeling that L.A. was going to get us on this one, just the way they were playing and Davis was covering that rim. It was like, man, I don't know.
I know.
And then having a bad shooting night on the game 6.
Yep.
I mean, it had to play and Curry, had a bad day shooting. So, it happened.
We'll get him next year. Jerry, thanks for joining the show. And David, dude, thank you for bringing in Jerry.
Yeah. Hey, much love, man. Looking forward to seeing you soon at another event, man. Always appreciate your time.
Okay, Dave.
Hey, Jerry's one of the first labeled as the official lowrider of San Francisco. This guy carries some deep roots.
Wow.
Much respect, brother.
Much love, Quadruple OG. See you, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Talk to you
later. Man, how awesome is that, David? I know the roots run deep, when you think back to where we started, right, with the lowrider community, like you talked about 50, 60 years ago. But, man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. Jerry's a solid guy. And, it's an honor to call him a friend and also, to be able to chop it up with him. Some deep history there, because I'm originally from Southern California. I live up in Northern California now, but really honored to be able to, attend some of these events with him and his crew. Got a great crew out there, Frisco's finest, putting out some really nice rides. So that's a good one. But I'm not done there yet, Jason. I got another one for you.
Oh, boy, let's do it, brother.
All right. Hey, Jason Ballard, let me introduce you. I'll let you introduce himself.
Go ahead.
Hey, what up, brother? It's Jesse, Lincoln Life.
Hey, Jesse, man, you're always killing it, bro.
Well, brother, I'm just trying to do my thing, brother, and I appreciate the feedback that makes me feel good from you guys. You know what I'm saying? That you guys give me props for what I'm doing.
Hey, man, let's be honest. We're just trying to catch up to you, man. You're out there hustling. You build some cool stuff. I know you've sold some stuff over the years. You build another one better. But you also got the F100 too, man. You got it all on lock.
Yeah, bro. When I started this Lincoln Life, I call it Lincoln Life because if you have a Lincoln, you're gonna live that life, and you're gonna go through up and downs, bro. And sometimes some people get discouraged, and some people, the more they mess with them, the more they learn, and some people just give up, And I'm a fighter, bro. I love what I have in mind, and I say, even though it's trying to kill me and trying to put me down, as long as it doesn't kill me, I'm going to keep going. And that's pretty much what I always have in mind with these cars, with the Lincolns. I love the cars. That's what we work hard for, to be able to say, you know what, I have a dream, but I make my dream come through.
I love it. You guys can follow Lincoln Life 65 on Instagram to see Jesse. The cool thing is your car is totally unique because it's that darker kind of gray color, but it's all blacked out bumpers and things like that with the Colorado custom wheels. Dude, the thing is sick, man.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Like I said, I always trying to be myself, bro. Just myself. What makes me feel good in my style. Some people, when I was building my car, they were like, "Oh man, you're gonna put red. Oh man, those rims. Oh, this." I go, you know what, bro? That's cool. You know, I pretty much respect your opinion, but at the end of the day, it's my car.
Yes.
You'll probably see when I'm done, and hey, you'll see it. You know what I'm saying?
So real quick, Jesse and his brother George, these cats, man, these guys are 100% solid. You know, they always turn it out. Their vehicles are top notch. Always trying to bend that curve, brother. Bend that curve as far as they can, and it shows in every single car that I've ever seen them put out. Nothing but good quality work, attention to detail, and always something innovative. And that's what we like about that, is because in this industry, they're bending the curve, changing the perspective on what can be done and doing it. And that's the difference.
I love it. And Jesse, you are, keep me honest, you're a twin. And like he was saying, you know, your brother and you are always out there running 100 miles an hour.
You know what? As long as we have gas, brother, we're gonna keep going, man. And you know, my brother is it's my right hand, brother. You know what I mean? Without my brother, I don't know where I will be and shit. I will still try to fight and do whatever it takes, but I know my brother always push me when I'm down, and he always gives me the gas that I need to keep going 100 miles per hour, brother.
Much love, man. I still got my Lincoln Life hat. I always wear it, and I appreciate you, brother.
No, I appreciate you too, bro. You're out there doing your thing, and I think you're trying to make this life, bro. You're trying to make it out there, and for people to know how special the Lincoln Life world and the Lincoln Life family, we have it.
Amazing. I'm so glad David patched you in, dude. I can't wait to fist bump with you next time. Hopefully I'm out in Killicali.
Bro, whenever you're around, brother, you want to come in and at least just come and have a orange juice or a beer or whatever you drink, bro. I mean, like I said, hey, let's do it.
For sure, man. Keep it 100, man.
120, baby. Let's do it.
Love it, man.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate it. Always good looking out, Jesse. Good to talk to you again, sir.
Hey, Escalante, and I just want to give you props too, bro. Just like you give me props, I want to tell you for keeping it 100, bro, and keeping the group together. And at the end of the day, we're all family, bro. It's not no color lines, nothing that is gonna keep us away. It's just about you having the Lincoln. Let's go, let's ride, baby.
That's it, brother. That's it. 100%.
Appreciate you, brother. You have a blessed day. You guys continue to do your thing.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir, as well.
Take care, guys.
Man, how cool was that, David? Thank you so much for patching him in. I was wondering, I was like, man, is he going to bring in Jesse? And, you know, it's funny, Jesse and I have been following each other for a very long time. We always exchange a pleasant comment here and there. But it is cool to be able to talk with him because his car is so unique. But like you said, and the theme of this episode it's about the passion.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You know, all these guys, we're all different walks of life. You know what I mean? We all do something that, maybe another one doesn't do, but yet when it comes back to the cars, that's where it's at.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pressed to find someone that's going harder in the paint than him because he's constantly driving that car everywhere. And every time I've reshared his stuff, it gets so many views, so many likes, and that's not why I do it, but it's cool that he gets the props for out there hustling hard.
Well, and that's the thing. If you take a look at his ride, you know what I mean, and what they do, it's different.
Yes.
It's not the cookie, and that's where it's a plus at. And you know what? I tell you what. Talk about different and unique. Here we go.
Oh boy,
got one more act.
Let's do it, man. While he's bringing them in, check out Lincoln Addict on YouTube. It's free. Turn on the bell or tap the bell for the notifications so you'll be notified when I post new videos.
All right, so back to what we were saying, Jason, talking about different and unique. This cat right here, I'll let him introduce himself. This guy right here is solid, and his 63, once you hear the name, you'll know who it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's all right. It's all right. It's most people know me on Facebook as Greg Ori or Slab 63 Slab.
Oh, yeah. I know you, brother.
What's up, brother? Long time no here.
I
like
know,
2
right?
days.
Yeah, I know. We just talked the other day about trucks, and I was wondering who Escalante was going to patch in dude, it was so cool when I was out there last September. We got a chance to hang out, and I've been giving David props the whole time because, a lot of these different crews, man, you guys are becoming tighter and tighter, and it's all about the numbers, and you guys are running hard out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still suicide slabs. You know what I mean? Love of the cars.
Yep, exactly. And I sometimes, even as an outsider being on the East Coast, I look at what all the stuff that you guys got going on, and David has brought in some different kind of folks on this call, or when I think of like what we talked about the other day, your car is even a little different, right? Because it's white, it's got the pillar delete, but it's got the black wheels with some of the black accents. You have also, David, right? Let's be honest, he's also kind of bucked a trend and done some cool stuff to his car.
Oh,
Yeah, so for me, the B pillar delete, the first car I ever seen, credit to David.
Yes.
So I believe it was 17 when out in Yorba Linda Regional Park we had the first Slab Fest. So David's car stood out because it was two-tone, which is very hard to do with these cars.
Yep.
Because of the way the roof and the trunk go together. So not only did it stand out by the color and the wheels, but he was the first car I ever seen with a B-pillar delete.
Yep.
Not only that, it was the first car I had ever seen with the motor swap. There may have been others out there before,
Sure.
But for me personally, so that's where I got the inspiration for my B-pillar delete. It opens it up. It just looks unique and cool. So credit to David for that.
Awesome.
Much appreciated, Greg. Greg's car is so unique. I mean, when he came out with all the blacked out stainless, and then that white within the inlay, and then the black interior with the vinyl or the inlay on the wood panels. And then let's talk about his air system, right?
Yep.
I know he's going through some changes right now with his air system. The only cat that I know and that I've known to run, what were you running?
Nitrogen.
Yeah.
Nitrogen tanks.
Yep.
That's a throwback to the old school SoCal mini truck days, Southern California Mini Truck Council.
Yeah, there you go, man. I mean, yeah, you're right, Escalante. It's like it's so unique. And the cool thing was, he and I, Greg and I, we had connected over like mini trucks and like some BMX bikes, and we're like all into the same stuff. But when you were talking about two-tone as well, it made me think of when I was out there last year. I think I met one of you guys' crew members, Jason. And he's got the 65, and that thing was awesome.
The black and orange top.
Yep. And I couldn't forget his name because he has the same name as me, so I was like, all right, I ain't going to forget this, man. And then lastly, I do want to mention Link Dog. We got a chance to really ride out, and dude, that guy's a rider. Plus, long story.
That's my brother.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I'm a Packers fan, so we really connected.
Yeah, Eli. So my brother's car, in my opinion, I get a lot of mine's flashy, I guess, or it's unique, so it draws a lot of attention. But my brother's 63, in my opinion, and not just because he's my brother, is the cleanest 63 because it's all original. The only thing he did was his interior is all original. The only thing he did was he had the inserts of his seat with black, and that's it. But if you look at the details of his car, the way his trim lines up, the way his bumpers line up, just everything is just in perfect condition.
Yeah, I love it, man. You guys are killing it, and I'm telling you, like I told David earlier, seeing all of these cars together, even just on videos and like the Temecula Rod Run, it's really mind-blowing. And I'm telling you, I always look in the background to see the people like as their heads swing around like on a swivel. And it's just the amount of attention that you guys get is awesome because people love these cars. But like David said earlier, getting 50-plus cars together, there hasn't been that many together since the damn assembly line, like David said earlier.
Yeah, and the cool thing is it's the love of the cars. It's people from Inland Empire, people from Northern California, people from Southern California, people from Arizona. It's Texas, all over. Some people don't even bring their cars; they fly out just for the to hang out. So it's the people as well as the cars. The cars are unique, and what I find is if you start talking to the people that own them, they have a little bit of a uniqueness to them too. So, the people are all solid people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you this. My last thought is I'm hoping to be back out there in September. I carved out a couple days to go do some pop culture stuff last September. But cruising for a cure, I had such a good time. All I can say is, damn, it was hot, and I'm from Florida.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll still have the white 63 by that time. I'm working on something new, and this one might be up for sale, but maybe it'll still be around. Maybe it won't be. Maybe someone else will be driving it.
I can't wait to slap hands with you again, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Anytime, brother. Thanks for the invite, David. As
Yes,
always,
sir.
my brother, it's a pleasure.
Pleasure. Always, Greg. Keep it hustle, brother. We always love seeing you out there.
Tell Link
All
Dog
right,
I
man.
said
Back
what
to
up.
work I go.
Late.
For sure, brother. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Dude, Escalante, I think I want to have you on every episode because when you first pitched and said, hey, we're going to do this, I was thinking, man, like, how is this going to go? But, man, you're making my job easy.
Yeah, well, it's all about the community, brother. We help each other out. You know what I mean, Jason? You pumping this thing, I know you got some support over there in Florida, but, we all have our normal day and our normal life, and it's when we have to make things, when things like this come together that really make us enjoy what we do. And either what we do full time, like myself now, or, when we have the spare time after our normal day job. I've been building cars since I was, before I was 16. But my professional career is completely different.
That's what I thought. Because you're kind of retired, right? Sort of.
Yeah. So I'm 100% engineering background. I'm a senior bridge inspector, tunnel inspector, and railroad FRA certified.
Wow.
For doing everything in the transportation authority. Anything to do with horizontal or vertical structural is what my background is.
Wow.
So that's why jumping into something like this, the mechanics of it was just a no-brainer. I've already been working on cars forever. Instead of rushing home to build a car, I have 7 days a week to build a car.
I love it.
So it allows me a little more free time and flexibility to focus on what really holds my heart, and that's keeping these classics alive.
Yeah, amazing. I want to ask you this, and I don't know how, we got a little bit more time, I think, but when you talk about NorCal, when I was over on the West Coast last year, I got to meet different people, and some guys were like, yeah, I live up in such and such. I watched this show on Motor Trend one time, and it was talking about, they did like archaeology of cars, but you'll remember the fires that happened a few years ago. How far in perspective is that from where you're at?
So in reality, it's not very far at all. So when I moved up here, and hence one of the reasons why I moved up here, was the state of emergency for the transportation infrastructure that had taken place. So where I'm at, I'm in Sonoma County, and the fires were pretty much all throughout our perimeter. So when we moved up, we actually couldn't even find a place to rent because of all the locals that had been displaced that had taken up and absorbed all the rentals that were on the market.
It's just crazy, and and I've just heard so many stories. And the place was called like Campfire, I think, is almost like Ground Zero.
Well, there was a couple. So there was, a really established fire. The ones that will ring the bells were the Paradise Fire.
That's right.
Yeah, the Tubbs Fire, and then we had a few other in different surrounding areas that really, really, really burnt down a lot of stuff. We know a lot of people out here that lost, their whole fleet. We're talking about, whiteheads that have been in hot rodding since, the early 60s that were 70, 80 that had, 10 cars that were all pristine, anything from a Model A all the way up to, a Continental of the 60s, rat rods to hot rods to classics, and just burnt to the ground.
Yeah, it's really sad. There's a show on Motor Trend, and I forget again. They kind of do archaeology and these stories, and they did a whole episode on the fires. And you had people that were like trying to push their cars because a lot of people started running out of fuel, with the traffic jams. And there's a guy I follow on YouTube, Practical Engineering. He's got over 3 million subscribers. He's got a really cool channel. He kind of had explained how I think the campfire cause was like a failure of a worn piece of the Pacific Gas and Electric equipment on a transmission tower. And like, it's crazy how that stuff can happen, but with it being so dry, it's just any little thing can spark those fires. And, I'm sure you and I are on the same page. It hurts our heart to hear of like the hot rods and things like that are burned because the stuff you can't get back. But thankfully, the warnings are getting better and better where people aren't losing their lives as much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the life and limb is obviously most important, right? You know, get your family out, get your pets out, get your documents out. But, you know, like with anything that we build or take pride in, right? You have time, blood, sweat, and tears into these things. And, you know, to be honest, no man in his right mind ever really wants to know what he really put into one of those vehicles as far as cost. You know what I mean? Just because throughout the years it all adds up, and to lose such things as well as the life, the memories, the childhood memories, your kids' memories is just really devastating. And you know, we've been up here now going on, I want to say maybe going on 5 years, and we're really starting to see it turn around again. So, you know, we hope for the best. We hope that the infrastructure that had caused some of these horrific events is getting themselves in line, and you know, and unfortunate, sometimes things happen, but as long as the loss of life and everyone can move forward from it, that's the key factor, right? To have a problem is one thing, but how you come out of that problem and strive ahead is another, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we like to do. And this community up here is really strong, you know, so everyone really pulled together. I know that we participated in a few of the Red Cross events to help bring, you know, the families back together to have closure.
Yeah, it's amazing. And when you think about different parts of the country, especially California, with earthquakes, the fires, and then, you know, some of our truck guys up in the Orville area, you know, the flooding that they had to deal with and things like that. It's crazy. You don't think about it, but certainly that's cool that you guys help raise some funds, you know, with some of those events, because, you know, it can be very devastating. Something I wanted to mention was a lot of the guys that you brought on, I had followed them or been following them on Instagram, and I would tell people, if you're new to this podcast and you aren't on Instagram, you know, Instagram is a great community. I've met a lot of people on there, and when I fly out to California and hang out with these guys, it feels like I kind of know them. And David, I wanted to ask, like, did you want to give out? I know you got an Instagram or two. Did you want to kind of shout those out in case anybody wants to follow you?
Yeah. So on my personal, my personal one is DBESCALANTE, and that's just on Instagram. I think I got a picture of my 63 as the cover photo there, but I have 6'3", and that's spelled CIX, the number 3, and then the word Continental, and then I have 6'2", spelled CIX2, Continental.
Yep.
Those are a couple mine, but if you go to my main page, you'll find me there, and you'll find all my other ones. And then obviously, of course, I have the Continental Collective on there. That is my business, where I also have a bunch of stuff that I've done throughout the years of clients' cars. Now, some of the clients I deal with, they're really kind of high profile, so I'm not able to post a lot of their stuff.
Sure.
They kind of like to fly under the radar, but as I stated earlier, we do everything here from a brake job to steering column adjustments to swap outs, G8 conversions, air ride suspension. From one extreme to the next, we try to get it covered here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. A couple more things I got for you, then I'll let you go. About last October, you had posted a very cool photo, and I had to save it. Highest elevation yet. You had traveled in the vert up in over 7,000 elevation to rest at, you know, you're about 4,800, 4,900. But it's pretty cool. You had the car right there nestled between all of the beautiful trees up there.
Yeah, that was a special event. That was for one of my good friends for their wedding. We were honored enough to be the send-off vehicle for that, and that was nuzzled up there. I want to say Pinole or somewhere up by Tahoe. And what a beautiful setting and a beautiful event we were able to take part in. But yeah, you know, it's one of those things, right? Giving back. It's the community giving back. And we've done a handful of send-off weddings, and we've also done homecomings, prom queens, different events, and it's always just to give back because, these things are so unique. Things as in the Continentals are so unique, and allow other people to share in that experience is something that we really like to do here at the Continental Collective.
Man, it's so cool, dude. David Escalante. I remember the first time I met you there over in, we were in Woodland, California, or Woodland Hills. Woodland Hills, I think, is L.A. I get them mixed up.
Yeah, Woodland Hills is L.A. Woodland, California is where we met up for that C10 intervention. And yes, you're correct. It was about a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. When you showed up, I was like, man, this guy's a rider right here.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pleasure to have met you then and to chop it up, and to be outside of the Lincoln community and still be able to, pay respect to the different lifestyle of the C10s, right? Because, who doesn't love a pickup, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the cool thing was you had the only Lincoln around that day, so that was awesome. But certainly, I tell you what, man, that's the one thing in kind of my mind in closing is, in the truck community, 25 plus, been in the Lincolns a long time. But the community, like we've said, reinforcing throughout this podcast, is so important because, to be able to go to California and slap hands and then be like, yo, jump in the car. Yep, let's cruise over here. Yeah, let's get a bite to eat. All of that stuff isn't possible without, the network that we have, right? And many of us meet through Instagram, social media and stuff. But to be able to go out there to California and slap hands and just have a good time, dude, I appreciate, the hospitality, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. And anytime you come out, you're always welcome here with us at the Continental Collective, and you're always welcome with any one of our chapters with the Suicide Kings. I think you understand that we are open door policy, brother. Sure. You guys want to come in, hang out, you're more than welcome. We do walk a line of respect, and we expect our members to do the same because it's really about respect as the individuals and the other people's property. Other than that, we're all a bunch of good people just trying to enjoy the life that we live and spend some quality time with those with like minds. So it's always a pleasure. And next time you're around, sounds like you might be making a trip out soon. Hopefully we'll be able to do it again.
Yeah, and chop it up. Before I ask if you got anything else, you want to give a shout out to the fam again, the wife, the kids?
Yeah, always. Much love to my close ones. I try to keep my personal life a little bit private, but my ladies, meaning my daughters and my fiance, much love and respect. Those two girls of mine, they're wrench heads themselves, out there working on cars at a very young age. And the other day, my fiance was looking at stuff, and I'm like, "What are you looking at? Dirty stuff?" And she said, "Yeah." And she pulls out a picture, and it was a '64 convertible Continental.
Yeah, buddy.
So it's all in the lifestyle. So much love to anybody I know and within the industry. Keep pushing, keep pumping forward, and this is a lifestyle. It's what we choose to do.
Yeah, DB Escalante, as he spelled out earlier on Instagram. You'll be able to see in the bio his other Instagram accounts if you want to give him a follow or at least check him out. And, of course, huge shout-out to Suicide Kings. They've got a couple, Suicide Kings CC, Suicide Kings LA, and then the NorCal. You guys can follow those pages. And then also I wanted to give a shout-out, Escalante, and I may have missed this, and if I did, I apologize. I didn't realize you guys were hitting the pavement on YouTube. A good buddy of mine who I had on the last episode had messaged me and said, "Hey, have you seen this video?" And whoever edited that one for the Suicide Kings YouTube channel did a fantastic job. So I would tell people to check you guys out there as well.
Oh, 100%. Let's not forget the club brothers and sisters, right? So SKLA, we have Mr. Jim Webb. He's out there holding second in command with Carlos Morales with the LA chapter. Their son, Jim's son and Michelle's son, Mason, I believe he just graduated. This kid is off the hook with these videos, with the dialogue and with the interchange with the music and the selection.
Yep.
Really, really stepping it up. And his creative mind is definitely shown throughout the work that he produces. And he is on his own adventure in life with following his passion in videos and directing and movies and small films. So check him out. I don't have an accurate address for him, but we can definitely get that to you guys so that when this airs, you can give him the props. But that's Mason Webb.
Yeah, so awesome. And I know, like you said, the club has a lot of great people. I got a chance to meet some of them out there in California, and I tell you what, it was hot at Cruising for a Cure. It was one of the most well-organized car shows I've been to in my entire life. We got there super early, and I hope to be back out there at OC Fair this year and slap hands with even more of you guys. But, David, I think that's all I got unless we missed anything.
I might have one more trick up the sleeve here.
Oh,
Let me
I
see.
like it. Dude,
And this is because of this is all about the community, and there's not one more individual than the other that is more appreciated. But I'll tell you what, this gentleman is actually from NorCal and also from Southern California. Let me see if I can get him on the line.
Oh, snap. All right. Extra special treat here for everyone. Again, make sure you follow us on YouTube. I'll be posting more videos and producing more, and I can't thank David Escalante enough for helping produce this episode. SKLA, NorCal, California IA.
All right, so Jason, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, so as we were talking, Jason, this community is just so vast with all the different personality types and everyone that comes together. But, collectively we make up this community, which is known as the Continental community, as I like to say. And, there's several influences all the way around. But this man right here, he's been a big part pushing some of his products and being known in this industry. And I'll let him introduce himself.
Go ahead.
Hey guys, Ali here.
Hey, Ali, what's up, man?
Jason Ballard?
Yes, sir. Dude, this is awesome, man.
Hey,
I'm recording with Escalante.
I recognize your voice.
Yeah, and he patched you in. And what's cool is I got a chance to meet you last September, dude. And I got to give you credit, man. I've mentioned you in some of my YouTube videos. The cars you build and kind of what you're doing with your brand is second to none.
Oh, I don't know about that. I appreciate it. I just do my best and see what happens.
Well, I got to give you credit too on this. Is last year with I think it might have been even in January, with your one car, you had kind of broke it down and you said, hey, when it went across the block, it didn't get as much time as some of the other guys, but you kind of had the tenacity to go, you know what? I saw a couple comments and you said, hey, it is what it is. I'm moving ahead, and I was like, wow, that really reinforces your character. I'm a type of guy like most of us, like we don't want to lose any money here. And we all know that you build cool stuff. But I tell you what, I think your future is going to be bright, man, as far as your next build.
I appreciate it.
Can you give us, since we got you on, can you give us any kind of sneak peek of what you could have in the works for the next one?
Absolutely. So I've done relatively well at Barrett. Both cars that I've done were, I hate to use the word high end, but they were very well built, LS based cars. The blue one I did last year that had a crate LS3 in there with all Holley, performance stuff. The one I took this year, the blue one, that was an LSX, which is pretty much an LS3 on steroids with forged internals. I had about 30 grand more in the blue car than I did in the white car. Unfortunately, it did about 25 grand less. But as you know, with Barrett, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just nothing but a straight crapshoot gamble, right? So just because you spend more money on a car doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do better. You just, put out the best product you can and hope for the best. However, the car that beat me last year and the car that beat me this year, they both had coyotes in there. So, and they were, the car this year was black. I've always veered away from black cars just due to the fact that, everybody wants a triple black Lincoln, right? But I figured there's also a really big niche that wants a Lincoln that's not black.
Yep.
That's why last year I did the Tesla Pearl white Lincoln. This year I did the Maserati blue Lincoln. And this might sound kind of silly, but for me, it's not all about the money. I'm a very competitive guy. And, I definitely would love to walk out of Barrett one year saying, hey, I had the best Lincoln that did the best out of Barrett. That's just my competitive angle on it. and I fell second place 2 years. I fell second place 2 years in a row. So next year at Barrett, 2024, I am doing a triple black 64 supercharged Coyote. I'm going all in.
Amazing, man. Yeah, so you hear it first here. Some of you guys have found the podcast, if you're looking to get in with a high-end build, turnkey, I guess you can say now push button, right? Not turnkey, but, push button car that you can get in and cruise. I've seen the stuff that Ollie's done, and when I broke down the Barrett Jackson sales this year on YouTube, I gave Ollie all the credit. I mean, that car was a nice one, but to your point, you got to kind of follow the trends a little bit, and you got to feel like, hey, that you're at least walking away, that you can feed your family and be able to feed the next build.
Yeah, when I'm at Barrett, because every year at Barrett, I sit there for all 10 days, 12 hours a day next to the car, answering questions. I got to try to get as many eyes on that car as possible, answer as many questions as I can, so bidders feel comfortable bidding on a car. And I would say every 2 hours, someone would walk by and say, hey, why don't you put a Coyote in this car? And I'd have to do my dog and pony show on why I put an LS in there for all my reasons, right?
Right.
But if I did a Coyote in a Lincoln, I don't think a single person would walk by and say, hey, why don't you put an LS in here?
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
So this year, no expense spared, full throttle. Everybody wants a triple black Lincoln. Everybody wants a Coyote or a Ford motor in their car, and I'm not only going to give them that, it's going to be supercharged. It's going to have the sexiest engine bay on the planet. It's going to have my factory interior I put in, my wheels, and if I don't do as well as I hope, then maybe I'll rethink my business model.
You'll start building Chevettes or something from the 80s that Dave and I joked about earlier. Some of the worst design times in Detroit, but we probably should reinforce before we let you go that for those that don't know, Ollie just mentioned his wheels, and that's Isotope wheels, and I know that you've really worked hard to build that brand, so congrats on continuing to push forward.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted to obviously we all know in the Lincoln community we know who Ollie is, but Ollie, Jason and I were talking earlier about the Temecula Rod Run. And, the group of cars and stuff that we were able to get together. And I kind of expressed, how hard it is to do something like that. But, coming from me is one thing. And, coming from, an outside party is always another take on it. And you were down there at the Temecula Rod Run and experienced that with us all. And how did you feel that vibe went?
I think it went extremely well. So the history behind that is, I think there's no surprise, the largest Lincoln market is Southern California. If I had to guess, we probably have down near 150, 200 Lincolns, stretching from San Diego to, Los Angeles. And, when Facebook and Suicide Slabs first kind of emerged as kind of a gathering ground for the Lincoln community, I want to say 7-8 years ago, maybe, that was kind of driving, most of the traffic when it came to the Lincoln community and meeting up and whatnot. But as Suicide Slabs kind of linked, Lincoln owners together, people wanted to kind of go in different directions. And, the Suicide Kings and the Ratties and, Lincoln Life. So, the Lincoln community kind of got segregated over the years. And I won't go into the various reasons that happened, but, there's been numerous attempts to get all these various Lincoln organizations together that, to some point had some success, but, Dave kind of pulled something off that I haven't seen in a long time, is to be able to kind of get all the chiefs amongst the Lincoln communities together and, put together a showing of 60 plus Lincolns. Again, I go to all the shows, small shows, big shows. I'm in Long Beach, so I'm close to all the OC guys, all the Inland Empire guys, all the LA guys. And, any given weekend or at least 2-3 weekends out of the month, there's always some sort of Lincoln something somewhere pulling between, 8 to 15 cars maybe. But, to see 60 plus, I think it was like 62 or something like that, to see that, we haven't seen that in 7-8 years. And just want to give my hats off to Dave, because it's been attempted many times by various people. and for whatever reason, success wasn't achieved on that level. But kind of like an outsider, I'm not calling Dave an outsider, but for someone not being in Southern Cal, although Dave, I think you're from Southern Cal, but you don't live here. For you to be able to pull off what you did, being 400 or 500 miles away, my hat's off to you.
Well, I appreciate that, Ollie. And, like we said before, and, Jason and I touched on this, it's really just the community that really came together, with the multiple leaders, for lack of terms, and in the different groups that really made this thing a success. And just like yourself, you were able to come out and join us, and it was just everything. Timing was key, and I think it was a big success by all parts. For us all. I mean, we even had Richard flew out from Texas to join us. And,
I saw that.
So we had members from Pennsylvania that flew out to join the event. So it was really just a good mixing and melting pot for the community. And I think ultimately, besides the products that all tie us together in this industry, it's the camaraderie and the experience that we have together with good memories that really lock us all down.
And don't forget my Arizona guys. Those guys are my best buds. Cedric Benskowski, Lee Avila, Dave Cabana, Jimmy Lincoln. Those guys brought two Lincolns out from the desert. So, I'm glad
they drove them too, right?
Cedric drove his. He's a trooper. And Jimmy Lincoln trailered his.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Hats off to everybody. I'm sure that we'd love to name them all. But everybody that was out there, we greatly appreciated it. You all know who you were. And, let's just keep them moving forward. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and we're going to get Jimmy Lincoln on possibly next. But, Ali, before we let you go, give a shout-out for your Instagram.
Oh, yeah, my Instagram is Isotope Motors. All the cars you're going to see on there either have my wheels on there or my interiors on there or something Isotope. So, I've kind of built this. I guess it's a brand, right? I'm a pretty humble guy, so I'm trying to make myself not bigger than what I really am.
Sure.
But I did the wheels because of necessity. Back when I started the wheel project, there was only one company making them, EVOD, who I think is the best of the best. Nobody does it better than EVOD, but they're $10,000-$12,000 a set, which is just unobtainable to me and maybe a lot of people out there. So again, I'm not going to go into the background of all this, but so I did the wheels because of necessity, and then I'm a big audio guy, and so Lincolns are pretty limited on what you can do with audio. So that's where the door panels kind of emerged from.
Sure.
I like building things that look like they came out of the Lincoln factory 60 years ago. So for someone that doesn't know anything about Lincolns and they see one of my Lincolns, they're going to think like that door panel came out of Lincoln that way because it's true to the era, right? And then the seats, right? That actually kind of goes back to my wife. She's kind of chicken. She doesn't like driving in a Lincoln without a seatbelt. We all know lap belts are kind of, useless. So I had to come up with a design to get a shoulder belt in a seat, in a convertible, not easy to do. So I figured that out. And so I have my seats, which kind of adds to my portfolio. So between my wheels, my seats, my door panels, it's just everything I've done. My latest is my floor mats. I haven't really released that yet. But the reason I did that is because Lloyd Mats, who was kind of the only player in town making floor mats with custom Lincoln logos, they stopped making them. So I just started a line of floor mats, which will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So everything I do is based strictly off necessity, because if I can just buy something at an affordable price, I wouldn't spend tens and thousands of dollars engineering it.
Sure, I get it. I definitely get it. Well, Ali, dude, it was great meeting you last year in September. I hope to see you again this year. Hopefully I'll be able to make it out. And David, thanks for patching him in.
Yeah, definitely, Ali. Always a pleasure. And, can't instill it enough. This guy's is the creative cutting edge on a lot of these new designs that are coming out on top of the wheels, the door panels, and everything else he's pushing. Keep your eyes open.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Take care, Ali. Yeah, it's all good. I tell you what, man, it's been a pleasure, and I tell you, I'm trying to get a little rhythm here on producing, one every couple weeks of the Lincoln Addict podcast, and to be able to have you on episode 31, dude, it's really an honor. And I tell you, I had such a good time out there. I'm going to dig back up some of those videos and reshare those from when we were cruising out there. And I tell you what, man, with the sunshine, the palm trees, the vert, I mean, you really laid down the red carpet. It might have only been a few hours that we hung out, but you treated me like family, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, of course. You know what, Jason, like I said, we appreciate it. You know, the fact that we were able to meet up is always a good time. And I'd like to say the same. You know, you introduced me to a couple of the big players there in that trucking industry, you know, guys that you do work with. And that's what it's about, right? It's about the passion.
Yeah, 1,000% to you, your fiance, and your children out there. Keep doing what you do, and I do hope to make it to NorCal again. I'd love to come slap hands up in your neck of the woods, but even if I'm down at OC Fair or whatever it is, I'll make sure that come by and say what up, brother.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe the next one, the Suicide Kings, we're all going to be pushing. We're going to be pushing for the Cruising for a Cure again. So come here September. Check out the Instagrams. Check out the Facebooks. We're going to try to get ourselves together back with the normal suspects, right? The unusual but normal suspects in the community.
Yeah.
So that we can all get together, and that will be hopefully another good event. We always have a good time, and it's always a good showing.
Can't thank you enough. DB Escalante on Instagram. Again, check out his other profiles and Suicide Kings. If you type that in, you're going to see they have those couple that I mentioned. David, thank you so much, brother. You blew my mind, man.
We appreciate it. And from my household to yours, you know, wish you nothing but the best in life and hope these times pass through quickly for you. As far as me, shop, you know, the Continental Collective, we're always here for you. If you ever need a call, you need advice, or you want to try something new, we're willing to try things out and explore those new builds with you. Our doors are open for all kinds of questions. And then last but not least, the Suicide Kings. 1961 through 1969, Lincoln Continental exclusive car club. Been established since 2015. It's the only Lincoln Continental car club. Much love, Jason. Appreciate your time, sir.
Stay on the rise, Escalante.
Always. Thank you, sir.